Hey, what's up? I'm a diagnosed narcissist, and I often think about what having a self actually means. And I guess it's something that not a lot of people relate to because they have fully constructed and developed egos, unlike somebody like me who has a cluster B personality disorder and does not have the strongest sense of self. There's an idea by Carl Jung that I think is pretty interesting called the shadow, because I guess when we consider this, it sort of brings everybody on the same level of, let's say, perhaps not really knowing who we actually are, who we claim to be, blah, 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 because there's things about how Jung claims that for you to do shadow work, let's say, from what I understand, is that it's basically making the unconscious conscious. And I think that's pretty interesting because even regular people who do have like a fully developed ego, quote unquote, supposedly have like a hidden self that they, let's say, whether they're aware of it or not, suppress, because when we grow up and live in a society, everybody has to be fake, I guess, to like a certain extent, put on sort of like a mask or like a persona or like whatever. But I guess maybe not to the degree that somebody with, let's say, a personality disorder, such as myself, let's just say more cluster B personality disorder, because yes, I am like a diagnosed narcissist. It's not necessarily framed in the same way that like everybody's masking or everybody's performing in the sense that like I do, because kind of like what I said, that ego is supposedly developed, whereas mine is not actually defined, and my, you know, construction of who I am is not actually there. It got me thinking, which is why I wanted to make this video, because I wanted to ask more of the Carl Jung enthusiasts, because I'm not going to claim to be like some sort of like expert or anything. As far as I've gotten with that guy is just the Jungian typology sort of stuff. So when it comes to, let's say, okay, even let's say talking about the shadow, maybe I can just talk about like shadow functions in terms of like my MBTI type or like whatever. But I guess like I just wanted to talk about it in its like, I guess, basic form, because I know not a lot of people know about MBTI, let's say, but even something like this is something that I guess everybody can put their like arbitrary spin on. So because I don't really have a sense of self, and every single thing that I do, the person who I am for the day, is definitely just like a compensation, because it all just, dissolves. I don't really have connection with the person that I was yesterday, and the person that I am today is simply just going to disappear, and I'll find out who I'm gonna be tomorrow and then rinse and repeat. Basically, nothing actually retains. I don't hold anything as like an integral part of myself. So I find it interesting that, let's say, if you are Carl Jung enthusiast and you do shadow work, this or that, even I guess regular people who don't have a cluster B personality disorder, let's say, can have like parts of them that are like hidden, quote unquote, then how would this be translated to, let's say, somebody like me or somebody with a cluster B personality disorder, like in general? Because if regular people can actually hold the front, whereas a narcissist, a borderline, an antisocial, a histrionic would struggle and I guess kind of just work on like autopilot. Because for me, when I wear a mask, quote unquote, or if I have an idea of like what I think I am, that's just, who I am, let's say, at that moment. Like I coast off it, but then I can't actually like put it up forever, and then I just go back to feeling like hollow and like not actually there and like no identity to begin with. So I can't even imagine what it's like to see like myself within like a shadow, because if I can barely even hold my ego up together, how would that even work? Which is why I even get curious about like what would happen if I were to supposedly experience like an ego death, because I've never taken like shrooms or acid or anything like that, so I'm not going to talk about like how I have a personal experience in terms of like tripping in the sense that like I dissolved. But in a way, I kind of already feel like I am at an ego death, and and if you're also a cluster B person, let's say, maybe you understand what I'm talking about in terms of like, yeah, not being like fully there. I don't really get what it would be like for, let's say, my ego to quote unquote like dissolve, because every single day, every single interaction, every single like relationship with like anybody that I have that like I'm trying to like analyze, I am trying my best to like put up a front, whether I'm lying to myself or whether I think, oh yeah, this is actually me. none of it actually feels real, and none of it's actually there. So when I think of a process like this, I get it in terms of people that supposedly have like fully constructed like egos or something. But it's like, with the idea, let's say, of cluster B people such as myself, would this ruin the narrative that something like the shadow was actually a thing, I guess? I kind of just wanted to like look at like perspectives or something. So, leave them down in the comments. Like, I understand that the integration process of our shadow is supposed to be difficult for anybody, but I think the difference between me and other people is, whereas other people might be trying to peek through the curtains, I'm just wondering how I'm supposed to stand on stage.